If you're a grappler over 40 today, I'm gonna answer some questions that are gonna help you out. So looked up the most common questions to practitioner over 40. And I'm gonna answer 3 of those. I have about 10 questions. I'll probably make this into like 3 videos. I'm gonna answer the first 3 today, in between my rest of my workouts. So I'm gonna start with my warm up. So the first question is, how do I train for jiu-jitsu without getting injured? Now the truth is, almost this goes for any sport, any combat sport, you can't avoid injuries. Injuries are part of being athletic, especially part of combat sports. But you can negate some of the big ones. You can put the odds in your favor so that you don't get hurt all the time, and hopefully you avoid the major ones. You can do this by building a strong, resistant body. And this makes a ton of sense because when you think of jiu-jitsu, it's like the martial art where we practice breaking each other's joints, we strangle each other, these awkward positions. So it's a body that is very strong and resistant to injuries. So this is why strength training is really important, because strength training just doesn't just strengthen your muscles, get you stronger, big muscles, but also has influenced the strength of your tendons, your ligaments, your bones. So by building a solid foundation of strength, you're gonna reduce the likelihood of injuries. Another thing that comes with this is training properly, making sure you train at the right intensities, not training hard every single day. You need to balance both easier rounds, harder rounds. You need to make sure that you have a certain amount of rest days so you can actually recover. You need to make sure that your recovery is on point from a nutrition standpoint and from a sleep standpoint. Next question, what is the best strength exercise for jiu-jitsu for my age? So what we have to understand, there's no best strength exercise. Everyone's gonna be different. You wanna find exercises that you can do that don't cause any joint pain, that you able to do. So there might be some exercises that you can't do because you lack of mobility, or maybe you haven't trained before. So you don't wanna start right with like a barbell back squats, because that is a little more of an advanced squat variation. If you're interested, this is why I do one-on-one coaching, so I can really prescribe you the best exercise programs based on your limitations and based where you're at. But just realize there's no best exercise, there's no best workout exercise. As far as what exercise gives you the biggest return, it's going to be doing some power exercises. So those are like jumps and medicine ball throws, and focusing mainly on compound movement. So those are your squat patterns, like a back squat, a zercher squat, even leg presses. Those are going to be your deadlifts and your hip hinge variations, like your RDLs. Those are going to be your upper body pushes, like your dumbbells, your push-ups, your presses. Those are going to be your upper body pulls, like your chin-ups, your rows, your one-arm rows. Your single leg patterns too, so things like backwards lunges, step-ups. Those things are going to give you a biggest bang for your buck, and especially if you're a busy dad who doesn't have that much time to train. A quick template that you can do is go in there, do some plyos, then do 1 lower body exercise, and then 2 upper body exercises. Do an upper body push, upper body pull. That's going to give you the biggest return on your investment, if you want to think of it in those terms. All right, so the last question, how many days per week should I lift if I'm training jiu-jitsu 3 or 5 times a week? Now, if you're training jiu-jitsu 3 or 5 times a week, I personally lift 3 times a week, but this is based on your current fitness level. Like, if you train jiu-jitsu 3 or 5 times a week, and you might have been doing that for a while, but you might be more of a beginner when it comes to lifting. So you start lifting, it's gonna be very stressful on the body. So at first, you don't need that much work. I have some guys who come to me and they train jiu-jitsu 4 days a week, and they literally just do 1 lifting session with me, and they see results. They get stronger, their injuries start to either go away or they don't bother them anymore. So 1 day a week can be plenty. It depends on what you want to do. If you really want high levels of fitness, if you want to build a better physique, like you want to lose fat, build muscle, you definitely probably need more time. But if you're just looking for some injury prevention standpoint, some strength, 1 to 2 days a week are key. And if you did something simple like I talked about in the last question, where you go and you do some power, so maybe some plyometrics, maybe some like box jumps or some leaps or some medicine ball throws, you do like 1 to 2 sets of a heavy lower body exercise, like a squat or a deadlift. Then you do like a upper body push, like a bench press, and you do an upper body pull, you're good to go. So a few guidelines with that. A little goes a long way when you do a lot of jiu-jitsu, so you don't need to do 3 or 4 sets. Do 1 or 2 sets pretty hard. You don't have to go with failure, but you should be kind of close to failure. In between working sets, make sure that you rest for a good amount of time so that the quality of sets are high. So I usually say rest for 2 or 3 minutes. And you can definitely get away with that, and that's going to be a great program, and you're going to see really good results. Again, a load goes a long way. Now, if you want to build like a decent amount of muscle, you might want to eventually try to get into 3 days a week, and then over time, just like anything, you can kind of increase your intensity, increase how much work you do. And this reminds me, like when I came back to jiu-jitsu, it was like I think I started with 3 days a week. I got into it, my body adapted, then I think I did 4 or 5, and then I think within 6 months I was doing 6 days a week. So if you're new to this, you just don't want to jump into it too fast to the point where it's going to do more harm than good. Again, at first you don't need that much like work or volume to see results because you haven't done anything. Anything you do is going to be an additional stress, and your body's going to adapt from that. So my biggest advice is start with 1 to 2 days, start slow, and then build that over time. And like I said before, if you're looking for help, one-on-one coaching program, I put a link in there. And that's probably the best thing you can do is have someone that can guide you through this process and teach you how to progress over time.